There are certain things that quietly shape your life, not because they are powerful, but because you allow them to remain. Most damage is not done by dramatic events. It is done by small tolerations repeated daily. What you refuse to eliminate becomes a silent agreement with stagnation. Transformation does not begin with addition. It begins with removal. The first thing you must quietly eliminate is the need for constant validation. When your sense of worth depends on approval, your behavior becomes negotiable. You adjust your truth to fit expectations. This weakens your identity. Real confidence is not loud or defensive. It is calm and internally anchored. When you stop seeking permission to be yourself, your actions become clean and decisive. The second thing to remove is emotional reactivity. Reacting gives away control. It allows external events and other people to dictate your inner state. Power is found in the pause. When you respond instead of react, you act from clarity rather than impulse. This discipline changes the quality of every decision you make. Third, eliminate mental clutter. Unfinished thoughts, unresolved resentment, and constant information overload scatter your focus. A distracted mind cannot build anything meaningful. Simplify what you consume. Resolve what you avoid. Clarity is not a gift. It is a result of deliberate reduction. The fourth thing to eliminate is the illusion of urgency. Everything does not require immediate attention. Urgency creates anxiety and poor judgment. Learn to distinguish between what is important and what is merely loud. Calm execution outperforms frantic motion every time. Fifth, quietly remove relationships that thrive on drama rather than growth. This does not require confrontation. It requires distance. Energy is transferred through proximity. When you stay close to chaos, chaos becomes familiar. When you choose calm, your standards rise naturally. The sixth thing to eliminate is self-betrayal. Every time you ignore your own boundaries, you weaken trust with yourself. Broken self-trust leads to hesitation and doubt. Keep small promises. Honor your word to yourself. This restores inner stability. Seventh, eliminate the habit of postponing discipline. Waiting for motivation delays progress. Action precedes motivation, not the other way around. Build routines that operate regardless of mood. Consistency reshapes identity. Eighth, remove attachment to outcomes. When you cling to results, you compromise process. Focus on what you can control: effort, preparation, and integrity. Release what you cannot. This shift reduces anxiety and increases effectiveness. Ninth, eliminate comparison. Measuring your life against someone else's timeline distorts perspective. Everyone carries unseen struggles. Comparison steals presence. Presence fuels progress. The 10th thing you must eliminate is the belief that growth must be visible to be real. Quiet progress is still progress. Transformation often happens beneath the surface long before it is seen. Work in silence. Let results speak. When you remove what weakens you, you create space for strength. Not through force, but through precision. Not through noise, but through restraint. A disciplined life is not crowded. It is clear. Elimination is a form of self-respect because every boundary you draw is a declaration of worth. What you remove from your life defines you just as clearly as what you keep. Most people think self-respect comes from confidence, success, or recognition, but it begins much earlier and much quieter. In the moment you decide that not everything deserves access to your time, your energy, or your mind. When you eliminate what weakens you, you are not losing anything valuable. You are reclaiming space for strength. Self-respect is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not argue or justify. It acts. It notices what drains, distracts, or diminishes, and it steps back without drama. Many people remain exhausted, not because life is too demanding, but because they carry too much that was never meant to be carried. Unnecessary commitments, unhealthy attachments, habits that once provided comfort, but now steal clarity. Elimination is the courage to admit that something no longer belongs, even if it once did. There is a quiet discipline in choosing less noise, less chaos, less emotional clutter. The mind thrives on order, yet most people allow disorder to live rent free in their lives. Endless information, endless opinions, endless comparison. When you eliminate excess, your thoughts slow down, your decisions sharpen, and your actions become deliberate. This is not deprivation, it is refinement. Elimination requires honesty. You must look at your life without excuses and ask what truly serves your growth and what merely fills space. This is uncomfortable because it exposes patterns you have tolerated out of fear, habit, or convenience. It reveals where you have been passive instead of intentional. But self-respect grows when you stop lying to yourself, when you acknowledge that some things are costing you more than they are giving. Respecting yourself means understanding that your energy is finite. Every yes is a withdrawal. Every distraction is a tax. When you say yes to everything, you are saying no to yourself. Elimination teaches you to spend your energy with care. It trains you to protect your inner state, not aggressively, but firmly. You do not owe your availability to everyone. You do not owe your attention to every impulse. There is strength in subtraction. A sculptor does not create by adding endlessly, but by removing what does not belong until the form reveals itself. Your life works the same way. The person you are meant to become is already there, buried under excess. Elimination uncovers rather than creates. It clears the path instead of forcing the outcome. Self-respect also means refusing to carry emotional weight that is not yours. Guilt, resentment, and the need for approval are heavy burdens. They pull you away from presence and into reaction. When you eliminate the habit of internalizing everything, you regain balance. You respond instead of react. You choose instead of comply. This is not coldness, it is clarity. Many people mistake elimination for rejection or failure. They think letting go means admitting defeat. In reality, it is an act of maturity. Children collect everything. Adults curate. Wisdom knows that not every opportunity is an opportunity, not every relationship is a responsibility, and not every thought deserves belief. Eliminating what weakens you allows what strengthens you to take root. Self-respect is reflected in your environment. A cluttered space mirrors a cluttered mind. When you remove physical disorder, mental order follows. When you simplify your surroundings, your nervous system relaxes. Elimination creates calm, not through control, but through alignment. Everything has its place, including you. There is also elimination of internal habits. Negative self-talk, procrastination, and emotional avoidance are learned behaviors, not identities. When you stop feeding them, they lose influence. Self-respect means correcting yourself without cruelty. It means holding standards without self-hate. You eliminate weakness not by fighting it, but by refusing to nurture it. Elimination teaches patience. It is not a one-time act, but a continuous practice. New distractions appear. Old patterns attempt to return. Each time you choose to remove what no longer aligns, you strengthen trust in yourself. That trust becomes stability. Stability becomes confidence. Confidence becomes quiet authority. Respecting yourself does not require perfection. It requires awareness and adjustment. It requires the humility to admit when something is no longer working, and the courage to change course without needing permission. Elimination is how you honor your future self. It is how you stop leaking energy into places that will never return it. When you eliminate what is unnecessary, you gain time. When you gain time, you gain space. When you gain space, you gain perspective. And from perspective, wise action emerges naturally. Life stops feeling overwhelming, not because it becomes easier, but because you become lighter. Self-respect is not about proving your value to others. It is about living in a way that reflects it internally. Every elimination is a silent agreement with yourself that your peace matters, your focus matters, your growth matters. Over time, these small, quiet decisions compound into a life that feels intentional rather than reactive, grounded rather than scattered, strong rather than strained. Silence reveals what noise hides, because noise is not only sound, it is movement without direction, information without meaning, and reaction without understanding. Most people surround themselves with constant stimulation, not because they enjoy it, but because stillness feels unfamiliar. In silence, there is no distraction to lean on, no external rhythm to follow. What remains is the self, unfiltered and exposed. This is why silence is avoided, yet this is precisely why it is powerful. Noise creates the illusion of progress. Activity feels like purpose, and constant input feels like growth. But noise fragments attention and weakens perception. When the mind is bombarded, it loses the ability to distinguish what matters from what does not. Silence restores that ability. It slows the internal pace enough for patterns to emerge. In quiet moments, you begin to notice where your energy goes, what your thoughts return to, and which emotions have been left unresolved. Silence is not empty. It is full of information that cannot be accessed through noise. The body speaks in silence. Tension reveals itself. Fatigue becomes obvious. Intuition grows louder. When noise dominates, these signals are drowned out. You continue moving forward without realizing you are misaligned. Silence interrupts this momentum and forces awareness. Awareness is the first step toward correction. Many fears survive only because they are never examined. Noise allows avoidance. It fills every gap where reflection might occur. In silence, excuses fall apart. You cannot scroll away discomfort or drown it out with opinions. You must face what is there. This confrontation is not punishment. It is clarity. What you understand loses its power to control you unconsciously. Silence also reveals the quality of your thoughts. In noise, thoughts are reactive, borrowed, and scattered. In silence, they slow down and become your own. You begin to recognize which beliefs were inherited, which were conditioned, and which are truly yours. This distinction is critical. A life built on borrowed beliefs lacks stability. Silence returns ownership of the mind to its rightful place. There is a discipline in choosing silence in a world addicted to sound. It is a form of resistance. When you sit in silence, you are no longer being shaped by algorithms, trends, or external expectations. You step out of collective noise and into personal truth. This does not make you superior, but it makes you grounded. Grounded people move differently. They speak less and observe more. They react slower and respond with precision. Silence exposes imbalance. When you finally stop, you notice what you have been neglecting. Relationships that lack presence, work that lacks meaning, goals that no longer resonate. Noise keeps you moving forward without questioning direction. Silence forces the question. It asks whether your actions are aligned or merely habitual. There is also silence in action. Not all silence is stillness. Moving without commentary, without announcing intentions, without seeking validation, is a form of silence. It protects your energy. When you act quietly, you reduce interference. Plants grow stronger when they are not constantly exposed to opinion. Noise invites doubt. Silence allows development. In silence, patience is trained. The urge to fill space reveals itself quickly. Restlessness surfaces. The mind searches for stimulation. If you remain still, that urge softens. What replaces it is presence. Presence sharpens perception. You begin to notice subtleties that were previously invisible. Tone in conversations, shifts in your emotional state, opportunities that do not announce themselves loudly. Silence reveals discipline. Anyone can be loud. Anyone can react instantly. Restraint requires strength. When you do not immediately respond, you gain leverage over the moment. You choose timing instead of being controlled by impulse. Silence between stimulus and response is where power resides. Noise often disguises insecurity as expression. Constant talking, posting, and sharing can be a way to seek reassurance. Silence removes that crutch. It asks you to be enough without external affirmation. This builds inner stability. When validation is no longer required, freedom emerges. Silence also deepens listening. When you are not preparing to speak, you hear more accurately. People reveal themselves through what they say and what they avoid. Noise makes you miss these details. Silence sharpens discernment. You understand not only words but intention. In quiet moments, purpose clarifies, not because answers suddenly appear, but because unnecessary questions fall away. You stop chasing everything and start recognizing what truly matters. Direction becomes simpler. Decisions become cleaner. Silence is not withdrawal from life. It is engagement at a deeper level. It removes the fog created by excess input and restores clarity. When noise fades, truth does not need to shout. It is already there, waiting to be noticed. Energy is your true currency because everything you create, maintain, or destroy in your life is paid for with it. Money can be earned, borrowed, or replaced, but energy is constantly being spent and constantly diminishing. Every thought you think, every conversation you engage in, every environment you tolerate requires energy. When people feel stuck, unmotivated, or lost, it is rarely because they lack talent or opportunity. It is because their energy is being mismanaged. Most people budget their money carefully, but allow their energy to leak without awareness. They wake up already tired, not from physical effort, but from mental clutter. Worry about the future, regret about the past, and comparison in the present all drain energy. before the day even begins. By the time action is required, there is nothing left to give. Understanding energy as currency changes how you live. You become selective. You begin to ask whether something is worth the cost. Energy is spent first internally. Your inner dialogue sets the tone. Harsh self-criticism, constant doubt, and unresolved emotional tension consume more energy than physical labor. The mind can exhaust the body long before the body reaches its limits. When your thoughts are scattered, your energy is scattered. When your thoughts are disciplined, your energy becomes concentrated. Concentrated energy produces results that scattered effort never will. Where you place your attention determines where your energy flows. Attention is not neutral. Whatever you focus on grows stronger in your experience. If you focus on problems, you energize obstacles. If you focus on growth, you energize solutions. This does not mean ignoring reality, but choosing consciously what deserves your focus. Energy invested in what you cannot control produces anxiety. Energy invested in what you can influence produces momentum. Relationships are one of the largest energy expenses in life. Some interactions leave you grounded and clear. Others leave you depleted and tense. This is not about labeling people as good or bad, but about recognizing energetic exchange. When you consistently give more than you receive, resentment builds and vitality fades. Managing energy requires boundaries, not walls, but filters. You decide how much access others have to your time, emotions, and presence. Energy is also consumed by resistance. Fighting reality drains more energy than adapting to it. When you argue internally with what already is, you waste strength that could be used to change what can be changed. Acceptance is not surrender. It is efficiency. It stops unnecessary expenditure. From acceptance, intelligent action becomes possible. Your physical habits directly influence your energetic reserves. Sleep, movement, nutrition, and breath are not lifestyle preferences, they are energy management tools. Neglecting the body forces the mind to compensate, and the cost is high. A tired body creates a foggy mind. A foggy mind makes poor decisions. Poor decisions waste even more energy. This cycle continues until awareness interrupts it. Distraction is one of the most expensive energy leaks. Switching attention repeatedly fractures mental power. Each interruption requires recovery time that is rarely acknowledged. Multitasking feels productive, but produces shallow results and deep fatigue. When you protect blocks of focused time, energy gathers strength. Depth replaces speed. Precision replaces effort. Emotional suppression also drains energy. Unexpressed feelings do not disappear. They remain active beneath the surface. They occupy mental space and demand constant management. Processing emotions honestly, without indulgence or avoidance, frees trapped energy. What is acknowledged can move. What is ignored stagnates. Purpose acts as an energy amplifier. When your actions align with your values, effort feels lighter. The same task that feels exhausting without meaning becomes sustainable when connected to purpose. This is why some people work long hours without burning out, while others feel drained by minimal effort. Alignment reduces friction. Misalignment increases resistance. Energy multiplies when used skillfully. Rest is not wasted energy, it is an investment. Stillness restores clarity. Silence recharges perception. Recovery allows output to remain strong. Constant output without recovery leads to collapse. Knowing when to stop is as important as knowing when to push. Every day, you wake up with a limited amount of energy. How you spend it determines the quality of your life more than how much money you earn or how much praise you receive. Small, unconscious expenses accumulate into exhaustion. Small, conscious investments compound into strength. When you treat energy as your true currency, priorities become clear. You stop chasing what looks impressive and start choosing what feels sustainable. You stop reacting to everything and start responding selectively. You no longer try to do more, you try to waste less. Over time, this creates a life that feels powerful not because it is busy, but because it is intentional. Discipline is quiet, not dramatic, because real change does not need witnesses. Loud declarations, public promises, and emotional speeches often feel powerful in the moment, but they rely on excitement rather than structure. When the excitement fades, the behavior disappears with it. Quiet discipline operates beneath the surface. It is built into routines, habits, and choices that are repeated without negotiation. It does not seek attention because attention is not what sustains it. Most people confuse discipline with intensity. They believe that if they feel fired up, motivated, or emotionally charged, they are being disciplined. In truth, discipline functions best when emotions are neutral. It shows up on ordinary days during low energy when nothing feels urgent or inspiring. It is the ability to act without waiting for the right mood. This kind of discipline does not look impressive from the outside, but it produces results that last. Quiet discipline is internal. It is a private agreement between you and yourself. No one needs to know what time you wake up, what you practice, or what you avoid. When discipline becomes performative, it becomes fragile. External validation replaces internal standards. Once praise disappears, consistency weakens. Quiet discipline remains unaffected by applause or criticism because it is rooted in self-respect. Dramatic discipline burns fast. It demands extremes, sudden transformations, and visible struggle. It pushes hard without building foundations. Quiet discipline builds slowly. It prioritizes sustainability over spectacle. It chooses consistency over heroics. Small actions done daily outperform intense actions done occasionally. This is not glamorous, but it is reliable. Discipline also means restraint. Knowing when not to act is as important as knowing when to act. Quiet discipline controls impulses without creating internal conflict. It does not argue with temptation loudly. It simply removes options. Structure replaces willpower. When your environment supports your discipline, less effort is required to maintain it. There is humility in quiet discipline. It accepts that you are not special enough to bypass fundamentals. Sleep matters. Practice matters. Repetition matters. Shortcuts are illusions created by impatience. Quiet discipline respects the process, even when progress is invisible. It trusts that results will appear if the work is done correctly and consistently. Discipline becomes quieter as it becomes stronger. In the beginning, effort is noticeable. Over time, behaviors become automatic. What once required force becomes identity. You no longer think about being disciplined. You simply live in alignment with your standards. This is why discipline feels restrictive at first and liberating later. Structure creates freedom by removing chaos. Quiet discipline also protects energy. Emotional swings are exhausting. High highs and low lows consume mental resources. Discipline stabilizes effort. It creates a steady rhythm that allows growth without burnout. You move forward not by surges, but by steps. Each step is manageable. Together, they carry you far. When discipline is quiet, excuses have nowhere to hide. There is no audience to impress, no story to sell. Only action remains. This level of honesty builds trust in yourself. Each kept promise strengthens self-belief. Each broken promise weakens it. Quiet discipline focuses on integrity rather than image. Discipline is also deeply personal. What works for one person may not work for another. Quiet discipline allows customization without comparison. You adjust routines based on reality, not trends. You listen to feedback from your own experience rather than external opinions. This adaptability makes discipline resilient. Resistance often appears subtle. It shows up as procrastination, rationalization, or distraction. Quiet discipline notices these patterns early and corrects them gently. It does not punish. It redirects. Harshness creates rebellion. Consistency creates compliance. The mind learns to cooperate when discipline is calm and predictable. Over time, quiet discipline shapes character. It influences how you speak, how you move, how you decide. You become less reactive and more deliberate. You stop needing urgency to act. You act because it is time, not because it feels dramatic. People may not notice your discipline until its effects become undeniable. By then, the work has already been done. Strength has already been built. Direction has already been chosen. Quiet discipline does not rush recognition. It understands that visibility is a side effect, not the goal. The most disciplined people rarely talk about discipline. They simply live in a way that reflects it. Their consistency speaks. Their presence carries weight. Their progress appears effortless only because the effort has been absorbed into habit. Discipline becomes quiet when it is no longer something you do, but something you are. Inner order precedes outer success because nothing external can remain stable if the internal state is chaotic. People chase results, recognition, and achievement while ignoring the condition of the mind that must sustain them. When the inner world is disorganized, success becomes fragile. It may appear briefly, but it cannot be held. Pressure exposes what is unstructured within. Inner order is not about perfection. It is about clarity, alignment, and consistency. A mind that knows its priorities does not waste energy on contradiction. When thoughts, values, and actions move in the same direction, effort becomes efficient. Without this alignment, even hard work produces scattered results. Most failures that appear external are rooted internally. Inconsistency, poor decisions, emotional reactivity, and lack of focus all originate inside. Outer circumstances only amplify these patterns. When inner order is absent, opportunity becomes overwhelming instead of empowering. Choices multiply, but direction disappears. A structured inner life creates calm. Calm sharpens perception. When the mind is not consumed by noise, you see reality accurately. You assess situations without distortion. You respond instead of react. This stability allows you to navigate complexity without losing balance. Success requires discomposure because growth always brings pressure. Inner order begins with self-awareness. You must observe your thoughts without becoming them. Many people are controlled by impulses they have never questioned. Awareness creates space. In that space, choice becomes possible. Order is established not by suppression, but by understanding. Emotional regulation is a key component of inner order. Unmanaged emotions hijack behavior. Anger creates conflict. Fear creates avoidance. Desire creates attachment. None of these are wrong, but when they dominate decision-making, results suffer. Inner order allows emotions to exist without ruling. You feel fully, but you act deliberately. Discipline supports inner order by creating predictable structure. When your days follow a rhythm, mental energy is conserved. Decision fatigue decreases. Consistency replaces chaos. This stability frees attention for meaningful work. Outer success requires sustained effort, not constant reorientation. Values act as the framework of inner order. Without clear values, choices are reactive. You chase what is loud, urgent, or socially rewarded. With values, decisions become simpler. You know what to pursue and what to decline. This selectivity accelerates progress by eliminating distraction. Inner order also requires letting go. Cluttered minds hold on to outdated goals, unresolved conflicts, and unnecessary expectations. These mental burdens consume energy and distort perception. Releasing what no longer serves restores balance. Order is often achieved through subtraction rather than addition. When inner order is strong, confidence becomes quiet. You no longer need constant reassurance because your direction is internally anchored. Doubt still appears, but it does not derail you. You trust your process because it is grounded in understanding rather than impulse. Outer success demands responsibility. Increased influence, resources, or recognition amplify internal patterns. If discipline is weak, excess becomes destructive. If ego is unchecked, success leads to isolation. Inner order ensures that growth expands capability rather than exposing weakness. Focus is a natural result of inner order. When the mind is settled, attention becomes steady. You engage deeply with tasks instead of skimming the surface. Depth produces quality. Quality produces distinction. This distinction is often mistaken for talent, but it is actually sustained focus. Inner order also shapes relationships. Clear boundaries, honest communication, and emotional stability create trust. Trust strengthens collaboration. Without inner order, relationships become reactive and strained, undermining long-term success. Resilience is another outcome of inner order. Setbacks are inevitable. When the inner world is structured, failure does not create collapse. You analyze, adjust, and continue. When inner order is absent, setbacks feel personal and overwhelming. Recovery becomes slow and costly. Success that arrives before inner order creates stress. There is pressure to maintain an identity that is not fully integrated. This leads to burnout, self-sabotage, or emptiness. Success that follows inner order feels sustainable. It fits. It grows without tearing the foundation. Inner order is cultivated daily through reflection, discipline, and intentional choice. It is not built through force, but through consistency. Each aligned decision strengthens the internal structure. Over time, this structure supports increasingly complex challenges. When the inner world is ordered, action becomes clear. When action is clear, effort becomes effective. When effort is effective, results follow naturally. Outer success is not something you chase. It is something that emerges from internal stability and alignment. You do not fight weakness, you starve it. Because struggle gives weakness attention and attention feeds it. Most people exhaust themselves battling habits, impulses, and patterns they claim to want gone. Yet the very act of fighting keeps those patterns alive. What you resist emotionally often persists. What you stop nourishing quietly fades. Strength is not built through constant conflict, but through intelligent withdrawal of energy. Weakness thrives on engagement. Every time you argue with temptation, rehearse excuses, or dramatize your shortcomings, you reinforce them. The mind learns through repetition, not intention. If weakness occupies your thoughts daily, it becomes familiar. Familiarity creates comfort, and comfort creates repetition. Starving weakness means refusing to make it the center of attention. Starvation begins with awareness. You must notice what feeds the pattern. Is it fatigue, boredom, stress, or environment? Weakness rarely appears without conditions. When those conditions are removed or altered, the behavior loses support. This approach is quiet and strategic. Instead of blaming yourself, you redesign your surroundings and routines so weakness has fewer opportunities to surface. Willpower is overrated. Fighting relies on willpower. Starving relies on structure. When you remove triggers, reduce exposure, and create friction between yourself and the behavior, the need to fight disappears. A person who does not keep unhealthy options nearby does not need constant restraint. Structure conserves energy. Conflict wastes it. Weakness also feeds on emotion. Guilt, shame, and frustration feel corrective, but they often strengthen the cycle. These emotions create stress, and stress seeks relief, often through the very habit you are trying to eliminate. Starving weakness means removing emotional fuel. You observe the urge without judgment. You let it pass without commentary. Deprived of reaction, it weakens. Attention is nourishment. The behaviors you track obsessively gain psychological weight. Constantly labeling yourself as undisciplined or broken embeds that identity. Starvation shifts focus toward what you want to strengthen. Instead of tracking failure, you track consistency. Instead of rehearsing mistakes, you reinforce correct actions. Identity follows behavior, not intention. Weakness survives in isolation. When behaviors are hidden, they avoid correction. Starving weakness sometimes requires bringing structure into areas where chaos once lived. Regular routines, accountability systems, and clear standards reduce ambiguity. Ambiguity feeds avoidance. Clarity eliminates it. Rest is also part of starvation. Many weaknesses are symptoms of depletion rather than flaws. Overworked, underrested minds seek escape. When you restore sleep, nutrition, and recovery, certain weaknesses disappear without effort. Fighting exhaustion with discipline is ineffective. Nourishing the body removes the need for escape. Weakness often disguises itself as reward. It promises relief, comfort, or pleasure. Starving it means replacing false rewards with real ones. Meaningful progress, physical vitality, and self-trust create satisfaction that impulsive behavior cannot compete with. When the nervous system experiences genuine fulfillment, cheap substitutes lose appeal. Environment plays a decisive role. You become what surrounds you. Inputs shape outputs. If your environment constantly cues distraction, indulgence, or negativity, weakness will persist. Changing environment is not avoidance, it is intelligence. You do not test your strength unnecessarily. You conserve it. Time also starves weakness. Patterns fade when not reinforced. Each time an urge is not acted upon, it loses intensity. The brain updates its expectations. What once felt urgent becomes manageable. Over time, absence of reinforcement leads to extinction. This process is gradual, not dramatic. Starving weakness does not mean denying humanity. You do not pretend urges do not exist. You acknowledge them without obeying them. This neutral stance removes drama. Drama fuels cycles. Calm observation dissolves them. Strength grows quietly while weakness fades. You do not feel heroic. You feel steady. This steadiness is the sign of effective change. The absence of struggle indicates alignment. When weakness is starved, confidence increases naturally. You trust yourself because you no longer rely on emotional battles to maintain control. Control emerges from design, not force. The strongest people are not those who fight the hardest, but those who make fighting unnecessary. They arrange their lives so weakness has little room to breathe. They invest energy where growth occurs and withdraw it where decay begins. Over time, what is fed grows, and what is starved disappears.